So you're trying to decide electric or gasoline. Hi, my name is Drew Short with Short Hobby Garden, and my wife April and I have decided to start this channel to help out you as a hobby gardener or somebody that's just getting started in the realm of gardening and don't want to go through the trials and tribulations that we did. So we are sharing our knowledge with you to keep you out of that. So let's start off with gasoline powered engines when it comes to lawnmowers, weed eaters, and blowers. I have used those because electric hasn't always been around. And let me tell you, having gasoline powered stuff is nice because the horsepower is vastly different than an electric powered motor. However, keeping stores of gas in, say, my storage building out there can sometimes be a little nerve-wracking because every time I opened up that door, the aroma or just potent smell of gasoline fumes would just come pouring out of there. And it got to be a little unnerving to know whether or not I was going to have a storage building the next day. So after a while, I decided to try electric, and my budget only allowed me to buy Ryobi. And Ryobi was great first starting off. It was affordable. The batteries were relatively large in size and lasted enough to allow me to finish my yard. However, it did require more than just one charge to do so. I did notice that after a while of using it, the battery started to fail and wouldn't hold a charge very long, and the computer system in the battery versus the charge that it said it had wasn't communicating very well, so the battery would discharge very, very quickly. So I decided to try EGO. Not only were the batteries bigger from a 40 volt to a 56 volt, they were much bigger when it comes to the size of the battery, and they just lasted a lot longer. I was able to mow my yard and my neighbor's yard on one single charge, and that included weed eating and edging. Now, I didn't use one single battery. I just charged all three that I have one time and was able to finish both yards. That's impressive because I wasn't able to do one yard with 5 batteries when it came to the Ryobi. Now, it doesn't mean that electric trumps gas all the time. That's certainly not the case, and don't get me wrong, there is a place for both. Now, something that you might want to think about doing just about every season is sharpening the lawnmower blade. And, you know, that can be a pain in the butt sometimes, especially if you don't have the right tools to do it. Or you can just buy yourself a new blade each and every year and just replace it. This is another thing I like about the EGO, and the Ryobi does this too, but it folds up like that for easy storage. And then I also have my weed whacker and edger tool right there, and I just keep all that here in the shop. And as you can see, I still have things for the Ryobi. I've got the chainsaw, pole saw right there, and then I also have the 40 volt auger, and use that for drilling holes for like the pergola and the gazebo. This unfolds pretty easy. Just squeeze a little lever here, raise it up. It locks into its first position, and if you're shorter, it has a second position. I'm kind of tall, so I leave it in the first. Undo these here, slide it up, lock them in place. That's something else on the Ryobi. These were kind of hard to locate sometimes. The setting on the side right here is for the deck height, and this one lever operates all 4 wheels. I usually keep mine on a higher setting, usually about the middle setting. My neighbor down the street, which I mow for as well, I put it on the setting right below that. This is the dock for the charger, or excuse me, for the battery, the big, huge honking battery. And it will accept the smaller ones as well. So if you have a really tall yard or something and you do run out of power, which is going to be a while, you can stick the smaller battery in here to finish up. So a cool thing that this mower does, and I don't know if the manufacturer meant it to be this way or not, but I call this the service mode of the mower, and I use it for servicing the underside or the lawnmower blade, of course. So we just squeeze the lever here, release the handle, lift up the deck, let the handle down, and drop the mower back. And the handle will not necessarily lock in place, but it will hold up the deck at a certain point. As you can see, it doesn't lock, but it just holds it at a good angle that I can get the nut off for the lawnmower blade. Now the way I'm going to service this, there are two ways to get this blade off. And as you can see, the blade is pretty gnarled up. We're just gonna kind of sharpen that. There's a couple ways to get this off. There, you'll find some little points along the deck right here. There's like one right here, and there's a couple here that you can stick a screwdriver in. And what that will do is allow you to hold the blade in place while you take a ratchet and loosen it. However, if you're like me, and you have the right tool at hand, you can just take you a impact gun, and just like that, and get your blade off. Just keep your hands free. Don't put them in the middle here. Also, just pay attention with how it went on so you don't install it backwards. Make sure the blades go the same direction as it was going to be spinning, and this one was facing down, this over here was facing up. So there's you an up-close view of the blade. You can just see the edge is very gnarled looking, and that's what we're going to try and fix. And we're going to use my grinder to do it, and using this wheel right here, we'll just grind that little area off, making sure that after we're done, we're going to check its balance and make sure that it doesn't lean one side to the other from being too heavy on one end. So right here is our balancing tool that we are going to use. This is just a little spike that sits on a tabletop or the ground, and then you take this part, which is graduated to fit a certain kind of blade opening that you might have, and you just set it on top of there, and it does a little balancing act on that little point. And then you just put your blade right on top to kind of fit it in the area that it's supposed to fit in, and then it should stay balanced. If it's not, you've got to remove some material off of the heavy end. All right, we are perfectly balanced. So as you can see, we got a nice edge with no nicks. You have to get rid of the nicks by going on the back side as well, through a tiny little bit of an edge on there. Now doing this each and every year will ensure that your grass gets cut nice and clean, and the leaf or the blade of the grass will also have a nice clean cut and won't be jagged. All right, now that the blade is all sharpened, we're going to put it back in place. And there's really no right or wrong way except for the direction of the blade itself. If you remember, the left side goes down, right side goes up. Put the washer on, and the washer is keyed a certain way that grabs the shaft, because it does have a flat spot. So you just make sure that's nice and seated. Put the bolt back in place, and don't cross thread it, whatever you do. Tighten that puppy down. There we go. All right. We're just gonna set it back up. You heard the handle lock. That's good. And just put this back in. So yeah, battery's green. Starting and stopping this is really easy too. There's a button right here. You just hold it. Pull the lever. There you go. So there you go, nice clean cut. Grass doesn't look burnt from being mowed too low. And the mower didn't bog down, which means my blade is nice and sharp. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but I got baby cardinals in that rose bush. See, there's the daddy right there. And the mama's on the ground, so they're standing guard. I'm a little too close for their comfort. Now this little area isn't part of the landscaping, but right now it still has grass in it, so I gotta mow it. Eventually it'll be killed off. All I can say is thank goodness for a lifted truck. I was looking at the base of this lavender and there was a hole dug out right here. I don't know what that was, but I filled it back in. Now, having these design curves in the garden like this make it really easy to mow, because I don't have to worry about mowing around poles, trees. I just follow the curvatures and keep going. Now, because the power is so much better in this huge battery that comes out of the mower, I'm going to use it to do a little weed eating. So you guys saw that I was using the weed eater to do some edging instead of using the edger itself. The reason why is this isn't the first time that I've mowed. I've actually used the edger to establish where the edge line needs to be. And usually after that, if I'm able to stay up on the mowing, I don't have to use it again the rest of the season. And the weed eater takes care of the rest. It just kind of gives a nice clean cut to the grass that's just slightly overhanging the edge that I've already established. But if you haven't mowed for the first time, you might want to use an edger because you'll just run right through all that weed eater line. Now back here in the back, it's a little different story. I've established where I want the edge of each border to be, and these are borderless flower beds. But without doing it the proper way, which I'm going to show you in a later video, that border just kind of goes away. So I could use the edger again back here, but the weed eater is just really, really fast. And since I don't have any mulch right here, I don't risk, throwing mulch everywhere. I just got to be careful around the gravel. Now, I particularly like this blower. Actually, I love this blower, mainly because not only can it accept, the big battery like this, but it has two settings. 1 and 2. It also has a constant on that you can adjust. If you don't want to hold the trigger all the time. Here's a PSA for the day. When you're blowing your grass, don't blow it into the street because bicycles, motorcycles, things like that can easily slip on grass that's been blown into the street. So just kind of blow it back into your yard. It may not look good right at first, but it'll be okay afterward. All right, I have mowed, I have edged, I have weed eated, and I have blown everything off. And this battery, which is the biggest of all three that I have, is still green. I could probably take this to my neighbor's house and do all of that on their yard and probably more with all three batteries that I have, if not just this one. I absolutely love EGOs. Now, is electric better than gasoline? Absolutely not. Is gasoline better than electric? No. They each have their pros and their cons. I know that the gasoline engines just have more power, so they're able to deliver more torque at the grass and bog down less. Is electric having the Ryobi better than having the EGO, or the EGO better than Ryobi? Again, it all comes back to your needs, specifically how big your property is, what you can afford. It's just your personal preference. I prefer the EGO because it has more power and longer battery life versus the Ryobi, which is more affordable, but the batteries don't last, near as long. But if you found this video informative and you want to learn more about your gardening space, especially in a small space like this, be sure and check out these videos here or playlists. And be sure and hit the subscribe button. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know how you like this video. I'll talk at you later. One thing I can show you here is the baby robin. There's its beak, and the other has a head poking out right there. There's a third one in there too. Can't make him out very well, but there's two babies that you can see there.